There's a man who'd been in the neighborhood for a long time, and he had two new neighbors move in on either side of him. And the first neighbor called him over and said, "Hey, I'm brand new here. What are the people like here in this town?" And the man who'd been there a while said, "Well, what are the people like in the hometown you came from?" And he said, "Well, they're friendly, they're courteous, they're happy to say hello, they've got your back, and when you're ever in trouble, they're always there for you. They're just generally good people." And he said, "Well, I think you'll find the people in this town are a lot like the people in your old hometown." And then the other neighbor had called him to the other side of the yard and where his fence line was, and he said, "Hey, I'm new in town. What's it like here? And what are the people like in this town?" And he said, "Well, what are the people like in your town?" And he's like, "Well, they're vicious, they're mean, they're rotten, they're conniving, they're basically just bad people." And he said, "Well, I think you'll find that people in this town are a lot like the people in your old town." Our brain is designed to make snap decisions here and there. A lot of times it'll let us know if something's hot to touch or too cold. It'll let us know, like, if we're in danger. Maybe if a bear is coming towards us and trying to eat us, we could snap decision, no, we got to get out of there. But we can't always turn that little snap decision, that snap judgments off. So it's still kicking in high gear while we're at the DMV or when we're at Walmart parking lot or other places, or the post office. We're sitting there always making these snap decisions, and oftentimes we make snap decisions on the people that we happen to see, and all too often we assume the worst instead of believing the best. So let's try to be like that guy who lives in that happy town. Wouldn't we all want to live in that nicer town? So let's look at 3 reasons to believe the best of others. Reason number 1, we never know others' motivations. We think we do a lot of times, but even when a guy cuts you off in traffic, unless he has a sign that says, "My sole purpose is to spread evil and hatred throughout the city of Cincinnati, and I did that because this is part of my mission," you never know why he did that. You'll never know. And in 1 Corinthians 2 verse 11, we don't have to turn to it, but that's what it speaks to as well. It says, "For whom among men knows the thought of man, except for the spirit of man that's within him." There's no way that we can guess what another person's thinking. A longtime minister who's served so faithfully and so long, he had this great story that he would tell. In fact, you would think a minister would say, "Well, since it's my job and maybe I've been doing it for a while, I can quickly guess what people's motives are." But he doesn't say that. He says, "You never know. You never know people's motives." If you pass a guy, this is the story he tells. If you pass a guy on the highway and you see he's helping a young lady change a tire because she's blown a tire, and they're changing the tire, you'll never know if he's doing it because has goodness of his heart, or he's trying to score a date for later. You can't tell by just driving by and looking. Now, if a mile down the road he helps the elderly gentleman change his tire too, maybe he's got better motives. But at that point, you don't know. You don't know why he's doing it. And like that, there's a social media in our modern world is blown up and given us the chance to share and also make those snap judgments on each other. And I would say that the way it's set up, Facebook and all of the social media, the way it's set up is that we don't really have a clear vision of why people post. A lot of times, I don't know if you've heard, like, people will say, "Well, they're just posting that to get attention," or maybe it's like a competition on there. Everyone's competing, and maybe you thought these things, or maybe you heard someone say that, and you smile and laugh, and that could be a possibility, But what I would say is that we don't have a clear vision of why people post on Facebook. It's when we look on there, it's maybe us looking at Facebook at the worst part of our day and looking at someone else's best part of their day, right? So if you'll follow me, where do you check Facebook? Usually, like, if you're honest, you'll look at it before bedtime, or if we're real honest, it's usually when we're in the bathroom, we'll check it there too. We're being real honest, no judgments. We're believing the best of each other. Or maybe you're in the dentist office and you're waiting to go to the dentist. That's like the worst part of your day, maybe the month, and you're looking through there and look, my friend's skiing in the Alps. Well, good for him. And then you see the next person, oh, surfing in Bahamas. Oh, here's somebody, his leg hurts because he ran a marathon. Oh, come on. Everybody's best day is on there while you're having your worst. And so I would submit, and not always that jealousy would come in and overcloud you, but it would just cloud just slightly your judgment on what people's motives are, just a tad bit, just by the way it's structured. And so I would submit that it's more likely that people post stuff because for the same reason that you post stuff. It's because you think that your friends and family who love you would be happy for you when they see the cool thing or good thing that's happened in your life. And that's probably what everyone's doing. And so we can believe the best in each other when we see someone do something and be happy for them too. Because when they're posting it, they're not thinking this will make this person like me less. They think, you'll think it's great. And so why not give them that and just have a better day yourself too. Now, also, unfortunately, we also get we get judgy in our own church area. When we see people that are even doing good, a lot of times we can get that snap decision and maybe assume they're doing something for a bad reason. I think it has something to do with all the detective shows that we want to find that person who's seems really good on the outside, but actually has all these alternative motives for evil on the inside. We want to catch them, and we think we can just find that one clue that gives them away. Oh, that person just closed their eyes during special music. Got him. Oh, he's the first one to set up chairs. No one likes setting up chairs that much. He's doing it for the wrong reason. Or maybe she's the last one to clean the kitchen. Yeah, right. Every time? I don't think so. No one likes cleaning the sinks. That's the worst part. Doing it for the wrong reason. It's almost like you can't do something good without it being suspicious of doing the wrong for the wrong reason. Maybe they're visiting nursing homes and looking after sick people. That's too many clues. That's for the wrong reason. And people, it sounds silly, right? But we can easily let these little things seep in. Instead of believing the best, we can believe the worst when people are doing great. So, and this is also should be a relief because I think we have this fear, this big fear that maybe there's one person who's doing all these good things, helping the poor, helping the elderly, visiting the sick, serving as hard as they can at church, and they have this evil plan in place that they're going to hatch, but no one knows about it except for it's up to you to figure it out. And we think, I don't want to be fooled. I don't want to be fooled, right? But here's the beauty that we don't have to worry about that. You can believe the best and not have to worry because God has got your back. You can be tricked, and it's no big deal. For the Lord sees clearly what man does. In Proverbs 5, verse 21. Proverbs 5:21. God's got it. We don't have to worry. He's the judge, and if they're not tricking him. So it's so much easier and so much better to just believe the best because we never know a person's motivation. Number 2. We're often most annoyed by the weaknesses that we share. We're often most annoyed by the weaknesses we share. I found this lesson to be true when I was riding on a road trip with my friend who was very talkative. And he was telling me this long, drawn-out story about how he was so annoyed by this other person who was talkative. He was saying how they just never let me get a word in edgewise, and they just continually talk. And you could imagine it. I wanted to change the subject, they wouldn't let me. Right? Right, of course. And then they just kept talking. And as he was talking, I was realizing I was like the world was opening up. He doesn't know that he's also that thing. And he's also irritating me because I'm that thing. I like to talk too. It was just a great lesson I learned. That you can be more irritated by the weaknesses that you have yourself. And I thought about it. What if my friend would have been a more quiet person? Well, I bet that time that they would have had that interaction would have been great. That quiet person would have thought that person has good conversation skills and kept it going and had interesting things to talk about. And the other extrovert would have thought, wow, this person listens great. And so they would have had a good interaction. Think about the times when you've seen two controlling people come and try to work together, and they're butting heads and they're getting aggressive, and no one's ideas are working. But if you had swapped one of those people out with someone who's more chill, more relaxed, and doesn't really care about much, why, that person who's domineering thinks, well, that's great, he loves all my ideas. And the other person thinks, I like that he has ideas. And they work around together. So whenever you find something annoying in someone, that's a great time to believe the best and look at yourself and think, maybe there's something in me that I can work on. I got to practice this a few years later. When I had a friend that was being so critical, I was just really annoyed and thinking about, I think I'm going to talk to this person and say that you've just been constantly critical. And then I thought about this rule that we often are annoyed by the weaknesses we share. And then I thought, maybe I'm doing something. And I looked, and I was being critical too. I was saying more negative things than I was saying good. And then I said, whoa, I need to work on this. And I started working on it, and it improved vastly our relationship. So we can remember this reason to believe the best is that oftentimes this thing that's annoying us is the thing that we share. Number 3, reason to believe the best of others is because we hope they do the same for us. If you'll turn in your Bibles to Matthew 7, verse 2. Matthew 7, verse 2. I'll tell you a story as you turn. I don't know if you are annoyed by those people who cut you off in traffic to get up to the light just right before you. I mean, it's not like a long stretch of high. It's just they cut you off just to be one car length ahead of where they were at the stoplight. And you think, that's like so pointless. Why did they do that? Well, I got a chance to learn another lesson. When driving to work here, if you come from the interstate, there's this part in the hill, and for those of you at home, you may not know this area. It goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane and then back out to 3. And it's only 1 lane for 100 yards or 50 yards. I'm bad at guessing yards, but a short amount of space. And then it goes back out again. Well, I had forgotten. I was into a podcast or something. I was listening to radio, enjoying my life at that point. And then I realized I had run out of room and that I had to get over quick. But there was a car right next to me. I was slightly further towards the front of their car than the back. So I made a snap decision to slam on the gas and pull right in front of them just in time, even having a couple tires over the edge. And when I slam on the gas, that doesn't mean that I went fast in any way. My car's very, very slow. So it went, and I worried at the time immediately. I was like, I bet they had to slam on their brakes for my stupidity. And so I pulled in, and I was like, I'm just trying to... I was so embarrassed. I was like, I'm not going to make eye contact in the mirror. I wish I could tell them that I'm not a jerk. I'm just dumb. And but I can't. I can't signal that. There's not a signal for that. So I'm just going to avoid eye contact and hope they turn off. But they didn't. They pulled up right behind me, and I'm still ducking. And I'm like, well, I'll lose them at the top of the hill. Again, my car's slow. I was going as fast as I can. I'm going as fast as I can. And then there's 2 other directions they can turn, so I think I'm okay. There's only 2 businesses or so to the right. I turn my car, and then I see them turn as well. And I'm like, okay, I can make the second stop. If I get there before the second stop, they won't see that I work at a church, and I'm an awful person, and they think that this church has awful people there. So I turn and go on the second one, and I get in my parking spot, and then I see that same car pull into the parking spot right near there. And it is the Secretary to the President, Miss Sweet, Sweet Diane Bailey, who I pulled in front of. I was thankful, though very embarrassed, that I got a chance to get out of the car and say, I'm so sorry, Miss Diane. I didn't do it because I was rude. I was just not paying attention. I was very dumb. And she said very graciously that she didn't even notice and it was no big deal. And I thought, wow, I wish we could do that more often. And I wish we could think that more often. How many times would someone cut me off and I thought, they're just evil at the core? And when I could have thought, they're just probably like me who does something dumb and didn't mean to. So when people do the same things as us, we should hopefully give them that chance to believe the best, to hope that maybe they did it for the right reason. David Foster Wallace has a movie coming out now. He was a philosopher, and he's kind of got a dark, cynical view. and he gave an address, a commencement speech at Kenyon in 2005. And his address was a very non-typical address to college students. They're all excited about getting their jobs and getting out into the workforce and just pursuing their dreams. And he said, yeah, you're going to get a job, but what they're not telling you about is that mundane, horrible life after you've had the job for a while. And he started to paint this picture of how bleak it can be when you've worked and worked and worked and you didn't have time to cook dinner and or make dinner. Your fridge is empty because you've been working so much, and then you go to the grocery store on the way home from work. You're tired and your boss yelled at you and you're hungry, and then you go in and you see it's full of people. Right? Yeah, right? Like that's the mindset that these people are just existing to be in your way. And he describes these people, and you're just like, it's so vile, right? There's this woman who's yelling at her kids, this guy who's talking loudly on his cell phone, and another lady who's in the front of the line writing a check. Oh, right? That is the scenario that no one tells you about adult life. And he was letting these people know. And though he's cynical, and though he's a little bit dark, he tells you about this hope, this beautiful game that each one of you can play. And I encourage you to play this game of believing the best. And now he starts talking about this, and I'll quote from his 2005 commencement speech. He says, "It's hard, and it will take mental effort. And if you're like me, some days you won't be able to do it, or just flat out won't want to. But most days, if you're aware to give yourself the choice, you can choose to look differently at this overweight, dead-eyed, over-made-up lady who just screamed at her little child in the checkout line. Maybe she's usually not like this. Maybe she's been up 3 nights straight holding the hand of her husband who's been dying of bone cancer. Or maybe, just maybe, this very lady is the low-wage clerk at the motor vehicles department who just yesterday helped your spouse resolve a nightmarish red tape problem through some small act of bureaucratic kindness. Of course, none of this is likely, but it's also not impossible. It just depends on what you want to consider." So anytime, and we have lots of times because we never know people's motivations, anytime you get the chance to believe the best in others, let's be like that neighbor who has happy town to live in, and let's believe the best in others.